You're listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where I talk to successful women in entertainment and hear their stories. In honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I spoke with Kerith and Rebecca Hall about their short film called Bear. It's about a moment in Rebecca's life during a time that she was first dealing with her breast cancer diagnosis. It's a beautiful film that really shows the beauty of sisterhood and the power of women showing up for women. I also interviewed Betsy, the president of the Get in Touch Foundation, which is dedicated to breast health awareness. You can find us at theother50%.com to see bios, photos, my musings on the blog, the coffee cups, the t-shirts. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, Podbay, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the places. Please help spread the word and share this podcast with at least one friend today. You can now also listen to these interviews on YouTube, and I'm starting to put up video of some of the episodes as well. Go to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood on YouTube, and subscribe so you don't miss anything. And I have another podcast called The Other 50%, a herstory of tech. You can also find it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or on the Other 50% website. And that's where I talk to successful women in tech and hear their stories. Okay, let's start with Kerith and Rebecca. So glad you guys have joined me today to talk about your film called Bear. Now, can you tell me what this film is about?
Yeah. So I'm the director of the film. This is Kerith, and I had read a short story that Rebecca had posted on social media about a year ago about her personal experience when she was very first diagnosed with breast cancer 7 years ago. And it just really spoke to me visually and personally as a woman. And so I reached out to her and asked if she would allow me to adapt the short story into a short film. And she said yes.
So, Rebecca, what is this story?
So 7 years ago, when I was 25, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, and it came completely out of the blue, no family history, no risk factors, nothing. And
yeah, that seems really young.
It was incredibly young. It was so young that I was in that age range where people say, oh, 25-year-olds don't get breast cancer. Don't worry about this, And luckily that didn't happen to me. I was taken seriously right away. But it was very, very young, especially for someone who has no family history. I tested negative for all of the genetic factors. So it was this completely freak thing that happened. And I was healthy. I was athletic. I ate well. I worked out every day. There was nothing we could point to say this is why this happened. So
no one could say it was caused by this or that. It was just a freak.
Yeah,
thing.
I did an entire panel of genetic testing, which tests for all the known genetic mutations that are associated with breast cancer and ovarian cancer, and I was negative for all of them. That's not to say that I don't have something genetic that we just don't know about yet. We're at the very beginning stages of understanding genetic mutations, so that's always a possibility. But I've lived a remarkably healthy life. I grew up in a family where my mom made homemade meals from scratch every day with fresh vegetables and have been very athletic. So there was really nothing no rhyme or reason to it, seemingly. It was just a complete surprise and seemed like just a total freak incident.
And how did they find it?
So I found it. I was stretching. I went for a run one day and I was stretching, and part of my stretching routine, I lay down on the floor on my stomach. And when I did that, I felt like I was laying on a golf ball on my breast. And what was interesting is that I have done that stretch every day since I was about 10. And so I did the stretch the day before and I didn't have that sensation. And then all of a sudden that day, there was this huge lump in my breast. And so I found it. It was a Saturday. I called the student health center because I was at veterinary school. I was in graduate school at the time. And I went in on that Monday and a nurse examined me and said, "You don't have family history. You're only 25. There's no way this is cancer. Don't worry about it. It's for sure a fibroadenoma, which is benign, but we'll send you for a mammogram just for peace of mind." And luckily they did. and the mammogram was abnormal, and then they biopsied and everything snowballed from there.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank God they sent you for the second test.
Yeah, which is, I'm extremely lucky in that regard, because a lot of young women who find lumps themselves don't really get taken seriously by their doctors, and they just get sent away. 25-year-olds don't get cancer. Don't worry about it. It's just a fibroadenoma, or it's just a blocked milk duct, or if they're breastfeeding or something like that. And so I've heard so many stories of women who it took them years to get properly diagnosed. And during that time, the cancer grows and spreads. And it's so unfortunate that that happens. But I was very lucky that the person I saw right away just sent me straight for the test, and everything happened pretty immediately for me.
Yes. So then what happened after your diagnosis?
So I received the diagnosis, and those first few weeks were just insane because I was still in veterinary school, which is really demanding. I was determined to stay in veterinary school. I'm a little bit stubborn. And so I went home for winter break. I finished finals. I went home for winter break, and I started chemotherapy over winter break, still with the intent of going back to school after winter break finished. And so the day before I started chemotherapy, while I was on vacation, I called 3 of my close childhood friends, and they came over, and I had decided that I just couldn't handle seeing my hair fall out. And it was something that I needed to do myself. It was one thing that I could control, and I needed to take control of that one element of it. So this is where the film comes in. So my 3 childhood friends shaved my head for me the night before my first chemotherapy. And it was a really, really powerful experience of being supported by my friends and coming to terms with the diagnosis and doing a lot of processing and accepting that I hadn't done up until that day. And then from there, it was just, I ended up not going back to veterinary school. I stepped out and didn't go back. So then it was just treatment for about a year.
Okay, I got to tell you, just hearing this story is so moving. Like, is this what kind of the moment the film focuses on? Kerith, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so Rebecca had written this very beautiful short story about that moment. And she's just a very visual writer in general. She's a professional writer by trade, not in our entertainment field, but she's a medical writer. And she had decided to do some personal writing, and that came through my social media feed, which to me was kind of ironic because my first short film was about social media and our identity. And so it seemed really apropos that this is how I found my next project.
It's all related.
Yeah, the fact that I'd known her since she was probably about 10 or 11. We grew up in the same equestrian sport. I'm much older than Rebecca, so I used to coach her and her friends from time to time. It just, and I had watched from afar this event happen through social media and saw that all of her friends came to support her, but hadn't really spoken to her about it. So to see her write about it so much later, I knew was very cathartic for her. And she had included all these beautiful details about, trying to go out dancing with some of her vet school friends and take her hair for one last night out on the town. And that minute that the doctor actually gave her the diagnosis, and all of these very emotional moments that really happen in our own minds. And I was just struck by a visual of what that would look like. And then it went on to tell, kind of the play-by-play of choosing to shave her head and asking her friends to come over and help her. And so, like Rebecca said, that support system of seeing women support other women that we don't often see too much in the media. And then just, how much as women we rely on our hair and breasts for an identity factor. And, what that's like, especially at 25 when you have so many firsts ahead of you. You're still cruising towards that career. You're still looking for that soulmate. There's so many things you have yet to experience. So I can only imagine that really amplifying what's going on in your head. I gave the story a read, and I, 2 weeks later was on a walk with my husband and was like, this is my next project. I know it. And then I emailed Rebecca.
Talk about your tribe of sisters.
Oh, the friends who helped shave my head, or just in, that was, I don't think that I would have gone through with it if it hadn't been for them. I didn't even tell, I was living with my parents at the time because I was on break from school, and I didn't even tell my parents that I was thinking about shaving my head because I was too scared that I was going to chicken out, and then I would have to tell them that I had chickened out. So I was so scared to do it. And then when my friends showed up and they brought cookies and wine, and we sat on the floor, and they listened to me and let me cry and just really helped me process what was happening to me in a way that I had not let myself do since I had heard that I had cancer. And it was so powerful to have those friends there who had known me since I was 10 years old, and for them to be there for me in such a concrete, physical way. I mean, they were the ones holding the clippers, shaving my head. They were the ones putting their hands on my shoulders when I was crying and saying anything they could think of to try and make me feel better. And it was such an important piece of the puzzle for me to be heard and listened to, and to know that it was okay to feel those dark emotions and then to work through it and kind of come out the other side just in that one experience, and then to face this thing, which was being bald, that I was so scared of. And they helped me do that. They were my rocks that allowed me to face that. So I think the power of female friendship and of supporting each other through those moments is just enormous, and it can't be overstated.
No, I'm sitting here weeping, listening to you.
Well, that's something that was really important to me, and Rebecca and I talked a lot about during our development process. Was we wanted to show the ups and the downs and the goods and the bads, and to me, especially of late, there's been a lot of movies, targeting specifically young women that are sort of being, have been adapted from books like, The Fault in Our Stars and, other films like that. And recently I was watching a CW show that had a breast cancer storyline in it. And I feel like they all take this abnormally positive approach of the hashtag grateful all the time and everything's pink. And it's not realistic. And I liked how raw and authentic Rebecca's story was. And we wanted to make sure that really came through. So in the film, there's moments that you'll laugh at, and then there's a lot of moments you'll cry at. But at the end of the day, I think everybody will walk away feeling very inspired and empowered, whether or not they're going through it or not. Maybe you have a friend going through it. Maybe you'll understand better that you just need to be there, no matter if you know what to say or not. And if you're going through it yourself, the dark feelings are part of the process. And if you don't let those out, it's not healthy, and you won't really move forward.
For me, it was really important to show that it's not all positive. And of course, when you have a diagnosis like this, it's terrifying, and it's filled with grief and anger, and you're furious at the world, and you're just crying all the time. And that's the reality of it. And you have to feel that in order to move beyond it. And it's so much more, I don't want to say easier, but it's so important to have other people in your life who are willing to be there with you in that place, who are willing to sit in the fire with you and just be there wherever you are. And that's what those friends for me did for me when they shaved my head. They just were willing to sit in the darkness with me and let me be wherever I needed to be. And then because they did that, I was able to stand up and do the thing that I was scared of. And that's such an important piece of it to me, that there's so much pressure on women and on cancer patients, breast cancer patients, at least I felt, to be positive all the time, to always find the silver lining. And sometimes you just need to cry and not find the silver lining, and that's okay. And for people who want to support someone going through it, I think it's really important for them to know that it's a really important part of support is being there for those moments too.
Yeah, you can acknowledge when it really, really sucks.
Because sometimes it does. It's not all just shiny and happy. Of course it isn't. It's cancer. It's horrible. But for some reason, there's this pressure to be really upbeat about it and stay positive. And then, at least, I can only speak to my own experience, but when I felt that, I then ended up crying by myself in my bedroom. It didn't do me any good. I felt like I was being a bad cancer patient because I wasn't staying positive all the time. Like I was doing it wrong. I wasn't being the poster child that I was supposed to be being. And it's such a crappy situation. But to have people in your life who are willing to walk through it with you in a real way makes such a difference.
Now, I don't know if you've seen that line of greeting cards where the woman who had cancer said, here's the greeting cards for people who don't know what to say. Like, having gone through it, when people have no idea what to say,
I always say saying something is better than nothing, and that I don't expect you to know what to say, because who knows what to say in this situation? We don't get taught what to say when your loved one gets diagnosed with cancer, and we're bound to say the wrong things. But I think it comes down to two things. I think it comes down to the support person just saying something, anything. And if they can't do that, just being there, just showing up and willing to sit and have a cup of tea with the person if you can't figure out what to say. And then the second part is, and I hate to put the burden on the patient because the patient's got enough to deal with, but I've learned through my own experience that it's really important for me to remember that when people who I love say the wrong thing, it's okay. They love me. They have no idea what to say. Just forgive them and remember that they're trying and we're all doing our best. Yeah,
thank you. That is such a that is so nice. I can't tell you how many times I've said the wrong thing in some situation and then just felt ridiculous ever after.
But it's like who knows what to say? No one. And we're all just trying to express our love, and sometimes it comes out wrong. And if you can remember that they're trying and they love you and they're saying something instead of running away, and that's huge, that's what it's all about.
So it's been 7 years since
it's
this happened?
a bit of a complicated story for me. It's been 7 years since the scene that we created the film about. 7 years since the stage 3 diagnosis, but then I was re-diagnosed stage 4 in 2010. So I had about 2 years of remission, and then the cancer came back and spread. So I'm now stage 4 metastatic, and I have been living with stage 4 cancer since 2014. So that's where I'm at now.
How are you feeling?
It's really day by day, because stage 4 cancer requires constant treatment. So I'm in ongoing IV infusions. I take tons of pills every day, and all of that has side effects. So it's very day by day. It's also, stage 4 cancer can ebb and flow. So we can go through periods where the cancer's knocked back more or less, and then it'll come back and we have to change up our treatments, and then hopefully it gets knocked back again, but sometimes it doesn't. Stage 4 is technically terminal. Right now I'm in a period where the cancer just reared its ugly head again. So I'm we're working on figuring out a new game plan, and hopefully the new treatment will... I responded extremely well to the last treatment, so the hope is that I will also respond very well to the next line of therapy.
Yeah, and that's something that with the release of this film during Breast Cancer Awareness Month that we're really focusing on. It's making sure people are educated about stage 4 cancer, and especially young people, because statistically young people, which is considered anybody under the age of 40, they tend to get diagnosed at later stages because, as Rebecca said, sometimes they get brushed off.
Yeah,
sometimes
who's looking?
They feel things that they just assume aren't cancer because they're not old enough. And then they're, more likely to progress to stage 4, which is the metastatic and terminal stages of those cancers.
Okay, so tell me all of your hopes with this film.
Our hope is to really build that awareness around stage 4 for Rebecca and her efforts. She does a ton of fundraising for Medivivor, which is an organization that raises money for research specifically to that stage of cancer. 30% of people that get diagnosed with cancer will become stage 4. And that's not even something that's recorded. So they only report your initial diagnosis, and then if you move on, that doesn't get updated. I just found that out and I thought it was crazy. But yeah, raising awareness, and especially for young people, just to be aware that the risks are there, that you need to do regular exams, which feels like such an archaic line. But that is still the line to make sure that you are aware of your breasts and doing self-exams. Because, to me as an outsider that, is not going through it and has learned so much by doing this process with Rebecca, I'm just surprised that the messaging is still very much you don't need a mammogram till you're 40. Yeah. So, and then like I said, there's so many layers to this film, and so many reasons for the two of us wanting to do it. We feel like there's just so much that's going to come out on the other side, whether it's that awareness or just more empathy in general.
Yeah, and I think this is really how filmmaking helps the world. Can you talk a little bit more about your history as a filmmaker?
Absolutely. I had a long and winding path to directing.
As did everyone.
As most women do, and that's another thing I'm very passionate about talking about. I just feel like there's this need to come out of the womb knowing what you're supposed to do with your life, and it doesn't happen that way all the time. No. So I started working in advertising around 2000, and gradually made my way to New York City a few years later, and found myself in the beauty industry, which I hated because I just felt like it preyed on women and their insecurities.
What?
I know, crazy.
That's a crazy theory.
Marketing. Yeah. So then I tried out being a publicist for some hip hop artists on the side. That's what I did after my paying job. And from there I met some awesome marketers that were starting a new group at CBS Radio. And they hired me based on my work I was doing at night, which was awesome. And then I lived in the Viacom family for about 10 years in New York City. So I worked for CBS Radio, I worked for Nickelodeon, which was my break into television. Then I worked for MTV Games, who made Rock Band and Dance Central, 2 video games.
Doing marketing,
but I always found my way to production somehow. So
you found your way on set. What's going on here, guys?
All the time, yes, exactly. Well, I was in charge of pitching the ideas, figuring out how to integrate our advertisers into our content. And I always ended up with the projects that needed to produce something new, whether it was me ending up in the edit bay and producing promos, or on a set producing, integrated interstitials. And gradually I just realized that I was the happiest when I was on set, and I was the happiest when I was doing sort of creative development. And so in 2010, I took a huge leap, and I left my comfy staff job at Viacom and moved to LA to be a producer. And from there, I just did what I knew how to do, which was figure it out. And so I, volunteered on sets, and I pitched people that I could produce their music videos and their spec commercials and really anything I can get my hands on. And then I worked on a music video for Herb Alpert. We did a remake of Puttin' on the Ritz for him, which was an amazing one single shot that was 6 minutes of dance choreography. It was incredible. And one of the directors on that job was actually the head of digital at the Oprah Winfrey Network. And he was like, I think we need you over here. So
Okay.
I went to the Oprah Winfrey Network and launched her online content strategy for original digital content and ended up being the vice president of digital videos there for 2.5 years.
Like Super Soul Sunday?
I worked with the Super Soul Sunday team a lot. I created and directed and produced a web series that was like a lifestyle web series called Own Show, another one that is a celebrity interview series called Who Am I?, a food lifestyle series called Harvest Day. And that was really a great part of my development as a director because it was digital and we had fast turnaround times and not a lot of money. So I ended up directing about 1,000 videos for them.
Great.
And it was at the end of that time that I was like, that's it. I'm a director. I know what I want to do. So that was 2.5 years ago. And I left and started my own production company. Made a short film called A Social Life, which has almost 2 million views on YouTube. And I direct a lot of branded content and commercials now. And now our newest film is about to come out, Bear. It's the newest baby.
Fantastic. Now, how did you kind of switch your process to directing narrative? What did you have to think about differently to do that?
Not a ton, because to me, a story is a story, whether it's a brand story or, a lifestyle interview story or a narrative story. To me, the biggest challenge for me is writing. Just because I've never been really formally trained and, I tend to feel the need to do everything the right way and I'm worried that there are rules that I don't know about. So it's mostly a self-inflicted fear that stops me from writing, I think. So these short projects have been wonderful learning projects.
So did you write the script as well?
Yes, with Rebecca. We co-wrote it together.
Ah, got it.
Yep. And then my first short film I wrote, I love writing scene direction. I think I'm very good at that. I'm really scared of dialogue. I'm making everybody sound corny. So my first film has 2 lines of dialogue in it. It's 8 minutes, and there's only 2 spoken lines.
Oh, how funny. So you must be really good at telling the story visually.
Yes, I do love that part. That's my favorite part, is the visual direction.
Yeah. Did you go out and raise money to do this short film?
We did. So my first film, I self-funded as an investment in myself and my company to have kind of a calling card. And then this one, we have some very generous investors that came on board of the project. Most people have some sort of connection back to breast cancer, and we're either honoring somebody that they had maybe lost or had survived, and they wanted to contribute to the project. But without that, we would have not been able to get this off the ground for sure.
Now, what do you make of kind of the state of women in our industry at the moment?
I feel like we talk about it too much.
Isn't that the truth?
There's obviously the statistics are bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the plan of action is. And then for somebody like me who's kind of trying to make it on her own, I often find myself with various organizations trying to find out how I can contribute, and nobody really has an answer. So it feels like right now we're just relying on any kind of change coming from the top down. And I feel like maybe we could take note from some of the activists out there and perhaps organize a little better.
Yeah, well, I think you going out and doing it is half the battle.
Yeah, for sure. That's the first step is stop talking and start doing. I think on all levels, whether that means making a piece of content for yourself or, going out and asking for that job or asking for the money that that you're worth. I think all of those efforts chip away at the problem.
Yeah. Now, what did you learn on the corporate side that has really translated and helped you as an entrepreneur?
How to be a professional. And, how to communicate with big brands like they communicate. I cannot tell you how many compliments I get when I send proposals out. They're like, this is so well put together. What do you normally get? I'm a little nervous about that. But, having written marketing decks for the first 5 years of my job definitely has paid off.
Right. You know what they're looking for.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that sort of gives me a little bit of a unique edge is that, I understand that marketing side and I understand that marketing language so that I can speak back to the clients in that way. I feel like it's not often that you have a director that you could sort of let loose with the client. You usually need to have some sort of intermediary.
Yeah.
But, which means I still kind of do all the jobs sometimes. Client relations and direct. But
did you say you were directing commercials as well?
Yes. My next big goal is to, get my content off the internet and onto television.
Great.
So that's the goal is a proper TV commercial soon. But yeah, I've done a lot of like branded content pieces and then commercials for online.
And what's the name of your company?
Kerith Lemon Productions.
Oh, how cryptic.
I know. That's something I learned early on is that, it is hard to brand a thing. And so if you are an unknown, it is better to brand yourself than to create something new. So, maybe down the road, I'll have some very esoteric company name, but for right now, it's my name.
Yeah. Take all the mystery out of it.
Exactly.
Now, Rebecca, have you been bitten by the filmmaking bug? Do you want to do more of this?
Honestly, right now, I'm just enjoying this whole experience. I haven't even thought about what comes next. We've got a few events lined up for Bear, and I'm just getting as much enjoyment as I can out of every single one because it feels like such a once in a lifetime opportunity for me. So maybe when all the dust settles and if my health is good, I will call up Kerith and say, let's do another one. I don't know. But right now, I'm just enjoying this one. It's been so much fun and it's given me a purpose again, which I had lost a little bit. So yeah, I'm just enjoying the ride right now.
And I have to say, going through all of the regular day-to-day marketing things and the events and such that sometimes you can get a little jaded, going to them with Rebecca is so much fun. So we just screened at a film festival this last weekend, the Lady Filmmakers Festival, and we had such a good time together. Rebecca wrote an article which just went up like hours ago on glamour.com with our trailer, and we're so proud of her. And there's so many more things coming up this next month. We're very excited.
So how are you releasing this film?
So we're self-releasing, and we will partner with some sort of mass media partner to do the launch. So we're offering them a launch exclusive and still kind of working through some of those details, but then it'll be able to be found on YouTube, on my YouTube page.
Fantastic. And it is October Breast Cancer Awareness Month?
It is, yes.
Okay, so it'll be out in October.
Yeah, so it'll be, right now our trailer is up online, and you can see it on all of our social medias, which are all on Facebook. It's facebook.com/bear short film, and on all the rest it's Bear Short Film on Instagram and Twitter.
Okay.
So there's links to our trailer on all of those sites.
And that's BARE.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then probably mid to end of the month, and the full short film will go up.
That's great. Is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about?
From my end, I just encourage all the ladies out there to go for it. I think that we often spend too much time talking ourselves out of things. So my current motto is, would a man ask himself this question?
I like that.
And then I just usually, immediately hit send on whatever email I'm staring at that I'm nervous to send. So.
Right, no more hand-wringing. Just do it.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, now here's something I ask everybody. I'll ask you each individually. Kerith, are you a success?
Not yet.
What would that look like?
I have a few goals that I have still in front of me. So I would like to direct a television commercial, and I would like to direct a feature film that I have in development. So at that point, then I will call myself a success.
Okay. Rebecca, are you a success?
I am going to say that's a really hard question. But
isn't it?
Two very competitive girls.
It's like, I know you're asking really two highly perfectionist people right now. But so I do have a couple of goals that I would love to accomplish. And when I accomplish those, I will just be like all over that question. Absolutely, yes. the primary being, I would love to write a memoir about my experience with cancer. But that said, I'm going to just go ahead and say, yes, I am a success because I think I am figuring out how to live a really hard life and still have happiness and joy and still do really cool things. Like this film is just the coolest thing in the whole world to me. And if the book happens, that will be amazing too, but I'm not gonna define my success by that.
Okay, thank you. It's funny. This is kind of a phenomenon I'm finding out, that when you ask women if they're successful, they often won't own it until they've accomplished every goal they ever had in their whole life.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of, I did something, I'm successful. Okay, my second question. Rebecca, are you a badass?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna say just full yes on that one.
All right, good. Kerith, you too?
Yep.
Yeah.
But, well, first of all, I think Rebecca is the biggest badass of all time. And I'm kind of a badass, too.
I think you both are.
Thank you. Yeah, my big moment of badassery at the moment is that I was 6 weeks pregnant when we filmed there.
That is badassery.
And nobody knew, and I was trying not to barf on people, while Rebecca was trying not to barf on people because of her infection. And I couldn't tell her why. I was like trying to offer her sympathy, but I couldn't tell her the real reason why. But,
yes. So I was texting her at the end of the day being like, success, I didn't vomit on anyone today. And she texted me back being like, I didn't either, but I didn't know she was pregnant. So it was just
wasn't quite as funny to her. So.
Oh my God, were you so sick while you were doing it? Just nauseous all the time?
I was a bit nauseous, yes, and it was like 5 billion degrees. We were shooting in Woodland Hills, and it was like the end of May when it first really, really got hot. It was only supposed to be like maybe 80, and I think it hit at the low hundreds. So just the normal amount of heat-induced, queasiness, and then also nerves, and then also stress. Mm-hmm. And then you layer that extra factor on. At the end of the weekend, I felt pretty proud that this future man in the world has already made something.
Oh my God! Now you're a superhero. How pregnant are you now?
I'm 6.5 months. He's due December 12th.
Okay, so you're doing this whole project pregnant?
Yeah.
Yes, and then on top of that, I have a really big commercial project I'm doing for William Morris for their touring division.
Awesome.
So I've been like flying around the last 2 months, and I still have one more flight and 2 more shoots to go before I'm on lockdown and the doctor won't let me fly anymore.
Which is the only reason she's going to stop flying. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I want to see pictures of you pregnant on set.
I have a few I can send you.
Because that is super rad. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. It was
Thanks
such a
for
pleasure.
So now I want to switch gears a little and talk about breast health and early detection. Betsy Nyland is the president of the Get in Touch Foundation, which is bringing breast health awareness to as many people as possible. So, Betsy, I just wanted to bring you on the show and talk about what you do in your foundation. We just heard the story of Rebecca and Kerith have made this short film about a moment in Rebecca's life when she was 25 years old and diagnosed with cancer. And it's a moment when her friends came to really support her one night and help her shave her head. And it's a really powerful film about processing all those emotions and the sisterhood and the support. And I thought it would just be a really great kind of addition to bring you in and talk about what you do and the mission of your foundation and all of that. So can you kind of tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, absolutely. So I am president of the Get in Touch Foundation, and the Get in Touch Foundation is a global breast health nonprofit, and we're in Milford, Connecticut, and we focus on educating all about the importance of breast health, specifically how to do breast self-exams through different programs that we have catered towards school nurses and health educators. And our program, which is the Daisy Wheel, it has 8 tips on how to do a breast self-exam, and we provide this completely free to schools around the world. So school nurses can go to our website, place an order for the Daisy Wheel, and we ship them right to the school for free. We believe nobody should be denied this potentially life-saving information. And actually, the reason the organization started was because about 13 years ago, my mom was first diagnosed with breast cancer. And my aunt and her sister was an oncology nurse and always encouraged my mom to do her breast self exams at an early age. So my mom had been doing breast self exams her entire life. And one day she felt a lump on her left breast and knew it wasn't normal. It wasn't her baseline. It was something she was concerned about. So she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Don't worry about it. Come back in a year." And of course, my mom, being my mom, said, "Well, you don't think it's anything? Are you willing to bet your testicles on that?" And of course, he wasn't.
Did she actually say that to
Yeah,
him?
she did. She did say that. And
I love it.
that was one thing that really stuck with me, especially growing up when she'd say that. I found it hilarious because she really did say that. So she actually ended up having breast cancer in both breasts. So it's a good thing she questioned that when she sought a second opinion. And it's a good thing she knew her body well enough to be confident that something was different and abnormal. So thank God she did her breast self exams her whole life and was familiar and comfortable with what was her baseline, what was normal and healthy for her. So following that diagnosis, she was really concerned about what that meant for me and my younger sister, Mary. So at the time, I was 13 years old and my sister was 12, and now I'm 26. But at the time, I was really young, and I remember coming home from school and I was watching TV, and my mom took me and my younger sister upstairs and said, "Sit down. I'm going to teach you how to do a breast self-exam." And we both looked at each other and we're like, "Mom, we're flat as boards. Like, what do you mean, breast self-exam?" And she said, "Yeah, I know you have no breasts yet, but one day you're going to have them, and you really need to know at a young age what's normal and healthy." So since I was 13 years old, I've been doing breast self-exams, just, knowing what my breast tissue feels like when it's that time of the month, or when I gain 10 pounds, when I'm losing 15 pounds from running a marathon, whatever it is, I know what's normal for me. Nobody knows your body better than yourself, so you have to be confident with knowing it. So my mom saw a need for this information in the community because there were actually mothers coming up to her saying, "Oh my God, Marianne, I don't know how to do a breast self-exam, and I don't know how to teach my children. Now I'm worried. Can you teach them and then teach me?" So my mom was basically teaching the entire community of Milford, Connecticut, how to do breast self-exams. And she said, "Oh, you know what? I have this brilliant idea. I'm going to go to the school nurse and get that program that's free to schools all around the world that teaches how to do breast self-exams." And her school nurse thought she was kind of crazy because there was nothing that existed. And she said, "No, I'm not kidding. Really, there is nothing that exists." So my mom talked to our pediatrician, her oncology nurse, health educators, and there really was nothing like it. So she created the Get in Touch Foundation. She started it, and just 3 years after it became a nonprofit, Daisy Wheel tools were, printing off the press. And right now, we are proud to say that we are in all 50 states and 34 different countries, and we're on track to reach 1 million girls this year. So it's really incredible to see girls become empowered through this information. And we don't focus on cancer, we focus on health because we don't want to scare anyone. And we just want to make sure that girls become their own health advocates at a young age. And one thing that really stuck with me, what my mom would always talk about, was we like to say breast self-exam like brush your teeth. So when someone teaches you how to brush your teeth when you're young, you don't remember that actual moment. You just do it every day, though. You still do it every day, even though you don't remember that one time you were taught how to brush your teeth. And it becomes a part of our daily healthy habits. Well, that's how we'd like to see breast self-exams, that it just becomes normal and healthy, and at a young age where maybe it isn't sexualized and it can just become a normal, healthy habit. So that's what we do. And actually, a year and a half ago, unfortunately, my mom passed away. And since then, I've stepped up as the president. And we're rebranding and we're going for this new, fresh look and feel with a new website that we're launching and making sure that everyone is included on this important topic, because men can get breast cancer too. And men have women in their lives that they love who, need to know the importance of how to do a breast self-exam. So it's been an exciting time for Get in Touch, and it's great to, especially when I go into classrooms and can see girls immediately empowered with this information. That's free.
I love it. And I love the approach, because really you're just asking girls to own their bodies.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, how can people reach you?
So people can go onto our website. Our website is www.getintouchfoundation.org. And there's information about who we are, what we do, and to get involved, there's different fundraising, self-started events that you can do. You can bring this program to your school. If you know a school nurse or health educator and you'd like to get this program into your school, it's so easy, and everything's right on our website. If you like to donate, that's also very easy to find on our donate page as well. We are launching our new website in the very, very near future, so that will kind of change things a bit, because we're going to have more resources to support our Daisy Wheel. So we can assure that we're giving the best information to school nurses and health educators, so we can arm and equip them to teach the younger generation.
So smart. And we were talking about in our interview before that that it seems almost counterintuitive that the best advice is still breast self-exams, because you think there'd be some other technological advancement we can take advantage of, but that really is still the best, most thorough way, isn't it?
Well, honestly, it's just a great way to be in tune with your body. And, we're not asking anyone to take anything. There's no pill. It doesn't cost a thing, and it doesn't hurt you. And you can do it in your own free time. So, sometimes girls will ask, well, where do I do it? And I say, if you're laying down on your bed before you go to bed, or when you stand in front of the mirror, or when you're in the shower, or when you're getting out of the shower, whatever works for you and what's best for you. But, it's free. You can do it anywhere at any time, and you don't have to take anything. So why not do it? Because my mom did breast self-exams, and she found her breast cancer early on, and it was stage 2. And because of that, my mom lived so much longer because she found it early. And there's no cure for breast cancer yet, but right now, early detection is our best defense.
For sure. And I've also seen there's a beautiful Guess watch for sale. Are you also partnered with Guess?
Yes. So we have this incredible partner with Guess. And for the last 4 years, Guess Watches has made a special edition sparkling pink watch for the Get in Touch Foundation. And they donate a portion of the sale of the proceeds to us. And this year, the 4th watch that they made for us has launched. And we are so excited by this partnership, and because of their partnership, we're able to continue printing more and more Daisy Wheels and hire staff and get our message out there to assure that everyone has this important information.
Great. Betsy, thank you so much. You've been listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Rebecca Hall, Kerith Lemon, and Betsy Nyland for sharing their stories. I will link to both the film and to the foundation on my website. And special thanks to Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Podbay, and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out in letters, for added features, pictures, and bios of our guests, and the merch. And now on YouTube, where you will start to see some of these interviews on video. You can also follow us on Facebook, on Twitter at Other50%, and Instagram at Other50% Podcast. And don't forget to check out The Other 50%, a herstory of tech. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.